Yep, starting down here to the bottom left, the Millennium player. Great player from Europe, especially in this matchup. He is
Millennium ForGG from Europe.
ForGG with a stellar record in TVT. We're just going to talk about this in detail in a few seconds again. Let's introduce our player to the bottom right of the map first. This is, of course, for Team LGIM.
MVP from Europe.
And what I wanted to mention earlier when we were talking about the record for MVP, for ForGG, he is currently 10-0 in best of threes against Terran, but a lot of these wins are actually against European players on the back of those. He especially took 4 wins alone in gamer assemblies in France, where he defeated players like HG, TIB and Marine Lord. Not really the players that you are going to face in the WCS finals. That is a very European environment where he's currently participating. So even though his record is really good, before him coming into the WCS Season 1 finals here, we didn't really know too much how strong would he really be against Korean Terran players. But so far, against MVP, he has done an incredible job.
He really has, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the series. MVP seems to think that he's going to have a hard time playing a straight-up game against him, as right now he's taken a gas in the main base, and he's also proxied his barracks, so it looks like we're going to see proxy Marauders here. Nothing else really seems to make sense. If he wanted to go for a proxy Reaper rush, he would have had to get the gas first. He would have had to get it a lot earlier, so it looks like he's banking on ForGG going for a CC first here, but not only is ForGG going for barracks first into gas, but he's also going to have this wall set up.
Yeah, right now let's find out what exactly ForGG can do against this. He has no scouting on the map, so it's not like we are having him with an early SCV on the map trying to find out what's happening here. He's doing, of course, his best, but MVP really is deciding now, okay, it's time for me in this best of 5 to just show something different, not go into the long macro game, but actually hit my opponent early on and try to decide this game even before ForGG can get his macro started.
Yep, and I wonder if he's going to hide multiple Marauders, because he doesn't know if there's a command center there or not. He could send the SCV over, then run back. He could also just put a bunker on the low ground to try to keep ForGG contained a little bit. Winning the game with this is probably just not going to happen, simply because ForGG did not cut any corners. He can just make a bunker, but he does start a reactor.
Exactly, he starts the reactor, and now this is a very different game that we are seeing, because with only 2 Marines, there's just not a lot that he can do. This is going to become a huge problem for him. We have now the command center also being dropped for ForGG, so he's really trying to get into this macro game, and MVP, he is just getting the cheese hammer, and he is going to hit it hard.
He is going to hit it so hard. He's waiting for his second Marauder. This is such a smart decision. He's going to hide this until the last second. One SCV goes over to start the command center here for ForGG, but meanwhile,
he still doesn't know.
He's bunkering, yeah. And he's going to be able to fall back to that. And in fact, he goes in the factory, not even a CC.
Fallback bunker that he has here, and at this point the Marauders are now going up the ramp, and this is where ForGG suddenly realizes that this is not going to be easy.
Yeah, definitely not going to be easy. He's starting to lose some of his SCVs already. The concussive shells upgrade is complete, and the bunker is about to finish as well. Targeting down those Marines. Really nice micro here by MVP. Needs to get into that bunker if he can.
Yeah, the bunker here is of course really crucial, and we have so many Marauders already taking down SCVs, and ForGG is in so much trouble. Losing 3 War Harvesters here, even more being taken out. The Marines have to be focused here now as well. He is producing more and more bunkers, is getting a command center behind it.
Yep, CC going down. ForGG's CC is getting closer to being completed, and you know, right now MVP, as long as he keeps microing correctly, he is going to be able to continue this pressure for a long time. A little bit surprised he didn't target the reactor earlier instead of the depot, but still, he's done so much damage.
He at least is able to just contain his opponent, to make sure that there's not a lot of aggression going on, and I love the move with the barracks here, floating it over to get the high ground division, so that he can make use of those Marauders. Was a big problem that he had in the last attack, when he was trying to sneak up that ramp, but now he has the vision, he can work on the supply depot, can take down a few of those Marines, but there are already a lot of them, and we have the added Widow Mine right on top of the ramp.
Yeah, the Widow Mine here definitely going to help him out quite a bit. MVP can still hit the depot on the other hand, and well, he needs to repair that if he wants to keep it. It looks like he's just going to give it away.
Yeah, the Marauder's actually attacking the Widow Mine here, but he's just barely keeping outside of the distance.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
What we just saw is actually MVP. I don't really want to say that he doesn't know about it, but it's something that players haven't figured out just yet, the range of a Widow Mine. If you saw the end of Wings of Liberty, players lining up their siege tanks and knowing exactly how far they can shoot, so we had these perfect lines always going on. Widow Mines haven't been in the game for all that long, so people are still trying to figure out a little bit, how far can I actually move into my opponent's base before that Widow Mine that I know is there is going to hit me.
Exactly. That's something he hasn't quite figured out. He figured it out enough, I guess, supposed to get the depot down. But that was a great clutch repair by ForGG at the last second. It was down to 20 hit points. Another Marauder shot would have done it in, but really last-ditch effort there to get that repair down. Second factory gets started for MVP before he loses his barracks. The barracks is actually burning as we speak.
Big problem here, of course, for MVP is that ForGG is already building his first medivac. So this is now one of those games where the main purpose of MVP was to delay his opponent's expansion for as long as possible. But I'm not really sure if he was able to do enough damage to make it worth it. Because looking at it, we have ForGG in a huge lead regarding his own tech. He will have the command center on the low ground in just a few seconds, roughly at the same time that MVP does. But he's already falling behind in supply, and I'm a little bit worried for the LGIM player here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he did some damage, but it's not critical damage. And right now, the drop that's coming across with the better tech that ForGG has, plus the attack at the natural, could do MVP in. It all depends on his Hellion micro, and how well is he going to do that? So far, not so good.
You know, losing one of those Hellions, this is going to get pretty close here, especially with the dropship now entering the main base and trying to do some damage. We have the dropship coming in, only one Viking, no Widowmine, but the turret, here comes the drop, dropping a tank and a Widowmine, of all things.
This is actually a pretty cool drop, though, because he knows that MVP doesn't have enough units to really kill a tank very quickly. No target on the SCVs, though. That was a little bit weird.
That is a very... I've never seen a tank being dropped into a mineral line, to be honest with you.
It does a lot of damage, but not if it only shoots at a Hellion. That was the problem there. If he had targeted the SCVs, he could have done it so much more. Tank mode, tanks actually fire very quickly. That was a strange drop, though. I don't know if that was actually a good idea.
It was a very interesting one. I'm not quite sure if that was really worth it, given that it's such a huge commitment to gas, but if you look at this, this is just... That was interesting. Let's just leave it at that. I am not quite sure if that was the plan, if he really thought he would do a lot of damage with it. Maybe if the SCVs weren't immediately being committed to taking the tank down. He knew that there wouldn't be too many units, and especially he knew that there wouldn't be any Marines or Marauders.
Right.
Since there was not a single additional barracks in the main base. So I guess overall a smart choice, but the one thing that I really think is that he didn't assume that there would be so much anti-air.
Exactly. He also didn't target the SCVs correctly. I think that was part of the other problem for him there.
I really think he thought he could have just used the medivac to bring it back to safety.
Well, as it is right now, MVP is going to do his own drop. He's dropping Hellbats, but he's been spotted by the barracks. And he has Vikings, he has Raven even, as well as all these Marines, which should be able to deny. He's purposely waiting here for the boost in, and is he going to be able to deny the command center? No, goes into the natural.
He's just trying to find an opening, but ForGG isn't giving him any. And that's going to be an issue. But both command centers are nearly completed, the third for MVP and the third for ForGG. Right now we have MVP being with a really good setup at the front. This time he actually sieges his tanks.
This is... You know, right now, both players are actually developing into relatively even games, but stylistically, you can notice that ForGG really likes to power up his buildings first before he even really moves his command center down, and that gave him so much extra production over MVP last game.
I'm a little bit blown away that ForGG is going for the Blue Flame upgrade. This basically means that he doesn't want to get Hellbats any longer in the game, and that is like, oh my god, I mean, he's showing something new here.
Yeah, exactly. We saw this just once yesterday with Ryung, I believe it was, and it can work. It's just all about how you use it. And, you know, last game we saw MVP make Hellions instead of Hellbats. That didn't really work out for him. There were a lot of things different about that game, but we'll see. I mean, Blue Flame is definitely better than regular Flame. I
just didn't know that ForGG knew that you could build Hellions. I thought that he thought they were replaced by Hellbats in Heart of the Swarm.
Starts to seem that way. He does a little bit of damage here, MVP, that is. The third base is the really exposed part. He doesn't have anything over here to defend, losing several of his Harvesters on more mining time. 16 Harvesters killed in total, so MVP doing some damage. Yeah,
he's doing a lot of damage here, and ForGG is already down to 37 Harvesters against 51. This is starting to become really an issue. In game number 1, the harass of MVP was not all too successful, ForGG doing a better job, but at this point in time, the LGIM Terran player really pulling ahead.
Yeah, but ForGG has a massive army lead, and he needs to use that if he wants any hope of winning this game. Blue Flame is about to be done. 69 to 53 here, and he has to hit this, and he has to hit it hard. He needs to somehow either circumvent those tanks, get a flank. he's got to do something here. He can't wait any longer. MVP is getting too much economy.
To be completely fair, he has more army supplies, so that is something that really works in his favor, but he definitely needs to do some damage. The third base, of course, a little bit exposed, but the information are already there for MVP. He knows about it. And here comes ForGG. He's just moving into the tanks. He does not care.
He charges in here, but there's too much, and the tank on the high ground, I think, is part of the reason why he has to back up here. He is going to get a nice siege up spot, though, on this orbital command.
That was a very optimistic optimistic attack that he just executed, just going for the A move here instead of sieging the tanks up and trying to lay siege on the third. Not really what I expected him to do. At this point, he has to pay for that now because MVP is sieging forward, but he forced a lift on the third base, and ForGG in the main base, even being harassed now, he's just losing way too much.
He's falling apart here a little bit. MVP with a nice hold there in the middle. Would have much rather like to see ForGG try to either do a slow siege push like you mentioned or go around the right side, try to avoid the tanks in general. Now he's down 40 supply here, and MVP, I mean, he's basically in an unlosable position right now, killing 35 workers in total, and he has a third base that he's saturating. He has all the gases there. He can make more siege tanks at a time.
Jürgen starting his comeback here, and he, with the win here, he would tie the score in our second game and then be able to move into the third a little bit more relaxed. He's trying to make that happen right now, moving out with a 50 supply advantage, roughly 40 supply as ForGG hits the next production cycle. But you can really see the difference here, not only in the worker supply, but also in army supply. MVP in a great position to take this game.
Yeah, looking really, really good right now, moving across the map, hitting a very similar attack than actually what we saw ForGG do in game number 1. Siege tanks here, and ForGG moves forward, but he needs to siege up. I don't think this is going to have any chance of surviving here.
He's losing way too much already. The Thor alone taking so much damage and dishing it out too. And here we go once again, Mac versus Mac, and the GG inevitable as MVP takes game number 2.
This is a really straight up attack there after he was really, really behind, and ForGG could not hold it. I mean, he didn't even siege up his tanks because he was thinking to himself, well, is this even gonna be more useful, or do I want to have the tanks in ground mode to DPS down that Thor?
MVP takes the series, and therefore we have now a tie series between the two players. We are heading into a 5-minute break before we then start with our game 3 here in our first Terran versus Terran best of 5. MVP is up against ForGG, and after a short break, we'll be back.